like six star something in the morning. I got some opinions to share. Okay, anybody that thinks CM Punk isn't gonna do any good for AWS business, you're probably in denial. Because for 7 years, eh, for well, he didn't have cult of personality as a thing for his whole career, but from like 20 from like 2011 to 2014, whenever you would hear the people would lose it, and people say, "Oh, he's just a favorite of the smarks, whatever, blah 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 blah." Like the internet crowd. Yeah, so yeah, that's not a valid like I mean yeah the big all his big supporters, all of his biggest most loyal fans um are from IWC. I've kind of grown out of the IWC fan stage of my fandom, but like because I realized how cringy a lot of them can be. Um, but he's a very valuable name to people say, and Vince Vince McMahon can say whatever he wants. The fact of the matter is that he is a valuable name to the business, and regardless of whether or not that there was any truth to his statement about him letting go of people to just so AEW could sign them and they could eventually go bankrupt, isn't going to work because if you think about it, Tony Khan has more money to his name, to his family's name, than Vince has to the entire company of WWE as a whole. As a whole, um, I mean, if you think about it, and and out of all the conspiracy theories, um, out of all the conspiracy theories regarding WWE being AEW being an inside job perpetrated by WWE or whatever, this is the one that makes the most sense, and he actually Vince outright said like it's kind of like a passive comment that he said, and I quote, "How about we need to give them some more talent?" And that's what you like. Name another reason why that they would release somebody as high profile and important as Bray Wyatt. There's no reason to, and I don't want to hear the budget restrictions because that man and his entire family has more money than any of us normal American citizens that have 9 to 5 jobs or unemployed or whatever would ever see for as long as we are alive, for our whole life. Like um like how else would Vince be able to sell um all of his all of his all the past content to now of WWE programming to NBC for the Peacock app. If he can do that, there is no reason to believe that they needed to release people because of the budget. And honestly, this isn't me being biased. This isn't me being pro AEW and anti WWE. I will say that I think that where WWE is the better wrestling show, AEW is the better TV program. Or they're both equal Like, actually, no, I'd say it's the other way around because people rag on AEW for like all this like absence of storytelling when that's not what they're trying to do. That's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to one of the biggest gripes of AEW that people have is it's all about work rate and it's all about matches and it's all about getting that good Dave Meltzer review and the Observer. When WWE is written by people that have never seen wrestling a day in their life until they got the job. There's a big difference in how both companies are operated. And yes, storytelling is a big part of wrestling. But and don't I I don't see the point in people saying, "Oh, it's all just matches and no storylines." Well, obviously, it's a company ran by Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Of course, it's gonna be nothing but work rate. I mean, that's like going that's like going to see a movie directed by Rob Zombie and complaining that and complaining that all you saw was people dying and and people getting slaughtered and you didn't you hear any philosophical ghost in the shell level contemplation of what it means to be a human and what it means to be an android. And saying that saying that AEW is a saying that AEW is a company solely focused on work rate and nothing else related to wrestling is 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 kind of like saying that I have a slight problem with walking. It's just it's just underselling it. But nevertheless, if you think that CM Punk isn't gonna do anything, at least for the first 2 weeks he's there, you're you're wrong. Dude's a valuable name. He could he could go work at that one weird, very ghetto looking gas station down in Ogden. You know the one dude the like one with the red roof and the gas pumps that aren't really there. Yeah. He could go work there and people would show up just to like be in the same presence as him. He could go work out some random Walmart in the middle of nowhere in Blackfoot, Idaho, and and that thing and that place would make Lollapalooza Lollapalooza from this year look like or make Lollapalooza this year um look like average day at the DMV. It's like you like or it would make Lollapalooza this year look like I don't know my analogy game isn't on par right now. It's way too early to be recording. I've it's you're basically like Vince made that comment because he knows he's jealous of Tony Khan. He did that one thing. He did the one thing that Vince or anybody in WWE for that matter could never do, and that's get CM Punk to step in the ring again. And yes, he did have that stint in UFC that was an embarrassment. And yes, it does make wrestlers look weak compared to MMA fighters. Yes, he's not a Conor McGregor. He's not a He's not how Chuck Liddell is in his prime. He's not a Nate Diaz. But like at the same time, you can make you could make that exact same argument for nine, 99 point like 9% of the of wrestlers, especially today. You mean to tell me that Kenny Omega can beat somebody up in a real fight? You mean to tell me that any of the Young Bucks can beat somebody up in a real fight? You mean to tell me that Marco Stunt can knock out Nate Diaz? No, that, that's not the point of wrestling. I don't go to it to see people have a real fight. I go to it to hear like to see the crazy moves and the high spots and the going through tables and jumping off ladders and hitting people's chairs and just like the athleticism and the the flips and stuff. I don't go to it to a real fight. If I wanted to see a real fight, I just I'd move back to Ogden and have my family and have somebody in my family wheel me out in the front yard and watch the neighbors. You know, like it, like it. That's not what it's for. Of course, they're not gonna beat each other up in a real fight. Of course, CM Punk didn't fare well in the UFC because that's not what it's there for. That's not what they're paid to do. It's not a real fight. That would be like, again, another analogy. That would be like that would be like if they put me in the track on the track and field team for the Olympics and then get mad when I didn't win them a single medal. Like, what did you expect? Of course, he wasn't gonna bode well. That's not his wheelhouse. And of course, he's not as big as Brock. And of course, he's not gonna make the transition as smoothly as Brock did. It's just common knowledge. It's and I'm not gonna sit here and say that AEW is flaw free. I still think I mean I don't know if they have been, but I still think the thing with Brody Lee's son's a little overblown. Like the lifetime contract, that was cool. So he has a guaranteed job as soon as as soon as he hits his 20s. But wrestling already has a reputation in the, already, and it has since like forever that it's silly and goofy and stupid, and you can't take it seriously. And I just think that a kid running around in a mask, starting things with grown men under the guise of a storyline, um, doesn't really do it for me. I mean, I know its purpose. I know its purpose. I know it was to distract Brody, Brody Jr. or Brody, because Brody wasn't Brody Lee's real name. But I know it was to distract him from the fact that his dad had passed and he loved wrestling. But at the same time, think about it like this: wouldn't having him constantly be around his dad's workplace and be around the people he worked with kind of be a little counterproductive because all it's going to do is remind him that he's not around anymore. I mean, granted, he probably doesn't see it that way, but I don't watch wrestling to see it like a feel good moment. I mean, it is cool. The 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 person in me is happy that he gets a distraction, gets to like let his dad's name live on. But at the same time, he let him be a kid. It was cool for the first time, but the first next like three whatever times after that kind of got really old, and I don't watch wrestling to like see a feel good story. I don't watch wrestling to see some Airbud Disney movie type thing. I watch wrestling again for the athleticism and the matches and in the storytelling, and to see somebody like a CM Punk or D-Bry show up in AEW. I just, which again, which brings me to this point. I feel like AEW has has an identity crisis. Like it doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be akin to something like Ring of Honor, where it's just work rate, work rate, work rate, work rate, or it doesn't know if it wants to be a Ring of Honor type, where it's just match, 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 near fall, near fall, near fall. Um, it doesn't know if it wants to be something like Chikara, where it's just goofy spots. It doesn't know if it wants to be something akin to the Attitude Era WWE or the original ECW with the violent matches. It doesn't know if it wants to be Combat Zone with the light tubes and the glass. It tries to be all those things, and it just doesn't know how to balance the two. I feel it. it they need to find the common ground between like what it wants to be. They need to have a set narrative of what the type of programming that they're showcasing needs to be. What they need to have an idea of what um they want it to be. They need to stick to it. They've had 3 years to figure this out, and they haven't yet. And I wanted to spend the last half if we made it this far. I know wherever this is going. I know that a lot of people I know aren't wrestling fans, and they won't care to watch this all the way through. But one thing the one thing I have a concern about CM Punk's appearance in AEW in the next couple weeks isn't something that's even in their control. Um, with the Delta variant spreading and people not willing enough to get vaccinated, and then the whole thing about certain places having mandatory vaccinations and then people choosing not to. Um, uh, it's gonna hinder the excitement. I don't like this is probably the most important thing to happen in wrestling in the past like 10 whatever years. And I don't want something of that certain of that significance of that amount of significance to happen with a very limited capacity crowd. I just feel like it wouldn't be fair. I just feel like it wouldn't be fair to Punk. I just feel like it wouldn't be fair to the fans, especially wouldn't be fair to the fans. Just I don't want I don't want to feel robbed of seeing a moment that important proper. You know, it it just wouldn't be fair. You know, either way he's gonna be there. Either way he's gonna show up. It seems they can't go 2 seconds without dropping a hint. Um, you know, they they're they're like a they're like a they're like a girl trying to goat the dude into asking her to the Sadie Hawkins dance. Like they won't go 5 seconds without dropping a hint these last 2 weeks. Um, but I just with how important it is, and I know that it's something has to be done. They can't control what happens. Whatever happens, happens. Like Spike says in Cowboy Bebop. Whatever happens, happens. They can't change. They can't. Tony Khan can't just snap his fingers and and boom, everybody's fully vaccinated and COVID just disappears. Um, but that's not how it works. Obviously, that's not how it works. Um, but yeah, like given how important it is, and I know I'm repeating myself, given how important it is, I don't want something of that importance, of that value, probably the most important signing in wrestling within these past 5 years. And if you go on any YouTube video of CM Punk's entrance video called The Personality by Living Color, and you scroll down, or anything relating to the news, 99.9% of the comments consist of, I don't watch AEW, but when he shows up, I'm definitely going to watch. That's the main comment you will see on every single one of those types of videos pertaining to him. So, if they have to do a limited capacity venue for reasons, then they have to. I get that. But, but, um, but, but if they do, but if they do, um, it is what it is, and if they do, it just wouldn't. I mean, it would still have the same importance value that it does as we wait for it to happen these next weeks. Um, but uh, but it would kind of lessen the impact if you couldn't hear cult of personality hitting the whole crowd of people. Whoa, 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 and just losing their minds. It just wouldn't feel the same, and it just I mean, it would still have the same significance, no doubt, but it would not feel as important as it is. And I honestly feel that for all we know, that this could be such a big deal. I know this is a crazy, crazy thing to say, but for all we know, this could raise this could raise AEW stocks and ratings so high that in their money that Vince just straight up just goes to Tony Khan and says, "You know what? You get the rest of my company. You get Cena, you get Edge, you get Roman, you get everybody else. AEW isn't WWE is now part of AEW. What? Like what? I had that thought in my head before AEW even hit the airwaves, and I know it's a long it's a long shot to think that they could pull a reverse WCW. But if you think about it, is it really that far off? I mean, it is, but is it really? Think about it. He could admit surrender and just, give all his, give all the company's assets to Tony. Yeah, he could admit defeat because, as I said, Vince and Triple H are secretly jealous of CM Punk. Why else would Vince be making those remarks? Of course he's jealous. He did the one thing, Tony Khan, a guy that's only been in the wrestling business for like what, three whatever years now, did the one thing that Vince, a veteran, the most popular promoter in all of the wrestling business, period, to the point where people that don't even watch wrestling know who Vince is and know how to do a pretty freaking killer Vince impression. He did the one thing in 3 years of experience that a veteran like Vince couldn't do for the past seven. And that's get CM Punk to wrestle again for his company. And he's gonna walk out wherever it happens to be, no matter what the no matter what the crowd capacity is, and he's gonna go out there and people are gonna lose their minds and he's gonna hit Darby or whatever with the GTS and he's gonna sit cross-legged on the stage or in the ring just like he did all those years ago. And he's gonna speak his mind and people are gonna be happy. And I'm gonna cry like a girl. And it's gonna be great. And yeah, I mean think about the match potential. Dude, they have the deal with New Japan, right? They could literally do a a match between CM Punk and Kenta because Kenta's the guy that invented CM Punk's finisher, the go to sleep, and they could have a match, and whoever wins the match gets to use the GTS for their whole career, and whoever loses has to go their whole career non kayfabe using a different finisher. That's money. That's money, no matter how niche that idea is, and that's money. And not to mention, if you slap CM Punk on the cover, make him a pre-order bonus of the video game, put him on the cover, people are gonna buy that. I mean, people were already probably gonna buy it already as it is because it's being made by the same people that made No Mercy, and they already described it as Day of Reckoning. The Day of Reckoning meets Here Comes the Pain meets No Mercy. Which if you remember my appearance on World Wrestling Radio 2 years ago, I said this exact thing. I I said I want I want a game if I could make any wrestling game with the styles of two pre-existing wrestling games, I would pick SmackDown Here Comes the Pain and Def Jam, the original two Def Jam games. And guess what we're getting? I'm right. I can see the future. I'm the disabled Miss Cleo. I saw it coming. I saw it coming. I'm right. Anyways, um, yeah, I honestly think that this is gonna get AEW to the biggest numbers that they've seen ever since the company started. And you know what? I don't really care. I mean, I did. I don't really care if his UFC run was embarrassing. I'm just happy to see him in the ring again, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm excited to mark out. I'm excited for all of this. It's gonna be great. I'm excited, and I've rambled on for long enough. Peace. Best in the world.